Portland's got a big budget deficit, so the mayor seems to think that defunding the police and defunding the fire department are the ways to go about getting that budget right-sided. Before we get into it, let's just take a look down memory lane of what happened in the past when we defunded the police in Portland, Oregon. Here we go.
Amid months of nightly protests and a historic spike in shootings and violent crimes,
It's kind of scary.
2 city commissioners are pushing to slash millions of dollars from the Portland Police Bureau's budget again.
Portland city leaders approved $15 million worth of cuts to the Portland Police Bureau. Several people called for a $50 million cut to the Bureau's budget.
The commissioners have promised to push for major cuts to the Portland Police Bureau, more than $18 million total. If this sounds familiar to you, you're not having deja vu. Back in June, the city council voted to cut $15 million from PPB. The move came amid historic anti-police protests following the death of George Floyd.
The mayor is recommending cutting 3% and 6% of the budgets of the fire and police bureaus, respectively, with the intention of keeping every fire station, like the one behind me, open and keeping every police officer on staff. However, the president of the Firefighters Association tells me that if these cuts are actually passed, they will almost certainly impact response times.
It's completely reckless. I just don't understand what they're thinking.
The president of the Portland Firefighters Association, Isaac McLennan, says removing the engine and cutting back hours would almost certainly increase response time. Mayor Wilson proposing more than $17 million in cuts to PPB, while again keeping all officers on staff. The police chief, Bob Day, reacted to this proposed budget today in a statement saying, in part, quote, "Cuts of this magnitude will have real and substantial impacts on our personnel, operations, and ability to deliver services at current levels."
Lest we forget, I want to go back to an article from July 7th of 2023. Because remember what happened? Oh, defund the police. Greatest concept ever. What could possibly go wrong? And then very, very quickly in 2021, so that happened 2020, 2021, by 2021 and 2022, you saw a shift to, oh my God, crime level just went kablooey to the moon. People murdering each other with wild abandon because the police were defunded and basically pushed back and said, hey, you know, you guys are the devil. You guys are responsible for all this. You guys are responsible for Fentanyl Floyd, even though he died of a fentanyl overdose, right? So, you know, you've got this conflicting narrative, and then you've got money pulled back from, like, Portland Police Bureau. Crime goes to the moon, and then almost immediately, oh, yeah, we need to start funding the police. Oh, that was a terrible idea. Except they didn't come right out and say that, right? Check out this article. So what happens if city leadership constantly hammer all police for the sins of the relatively few and also underfund law enforcement? The short answer, it becomes Portland. Hotbed of the defund the police these days has to wrestle with the perception, and many say reality, of it becoming a cesspool of crime-related problems and a serious candidate for the title of Murder City, USA. This is what happens when you defund the police. Wasn't too long ago, Portland was considered one of the safest cities in the U.S. Portland averaged 21 homicides a year between 2020 and 2019. Murder body count in 2022 was 92. That's what happens when you defund the police. Portland's homicide numbers reached 101 in 2022. 101. That is fantastic. If you're the owner of a morgue, right? For everybody else, oh, good Lord. That puts Portland in the same league as Oakland with 119 last year, and Sacramento with 110 homicides in 2022. For those that believe the reviews that San Francisco is the land of Mad Max these days, city that is 50% larger in population than Portland, had 55 murders in 2021. Half So we cut down to Portland 2020, cut police funding despite the fact the city was adding thousands of people. That's not a good call. Council action in Portland pandered to protesters. That city demanding police be defunded led to the disbanding of a unit focused on gangs and gun violence. That was the gun violence reduction team, I believe. Portland then went from 29 murders to 101 murders in a year. The simple math is less police means more mayhem. Absolutely. And it's the overall perception of, all right, we're going to have less police coverage. And in Portland, that is a terrible thing. You've got a massive $170 million budget deficit in Portland that leadership is like, what are we going to do here? So you gotta cut from all programs, right? The optics of not cutting police and the optics of not cutting the fire department. How are you going to do that in Portland? Honestly, this is Portland we're talking about, right? They'd rather have their house burned down than, this perception that, we're overfunding the police department and first responders. Let my house burn. It's okay. I can get another one. Just mentally, Portland Mayor Keith Wilson's proposed budget released yesterday, Monday, includes more than $20 million in cuts in the city's police and fire bureaus. And you know what? This is not just Portland. This is a lot of other big blue Democrat-run cities that also cheered that mantra, defund the police, the most irresponsible chant possibly of all time, right? Potential cuts are meant to close a $170 million budget gap. I've done my utmost to set up my colleagues for success and to blunt the impact of our most painful cuts, Mayor Wilson said in a video statement. My colleagues will still be forced to make far more difficult decisions than our city government has faced in many years. Now, this is coming on the backs of year after year after year of downtown Portland just being overrun with crime and whacked out homeless people, graffiti, stores being broken into, just some real mayhem. How about let's talk about the ICE center in Portland. I mean, that had worldwide attention to it because Portland's mayor basically told the police department, hey, back off there. Let the little ICE protesters in their frog costumes run around and play grab ass with each other. Maybe have a little furry moment. And then we had Boohoo Bob, the police department chief of police, crying over Tren de Aragua. Just like, what are we doing here? Well, I mean, this is Portland, right? This is Portland. Proposed budget includes roughly $6.6 million in cuts to Portland Fire and Rescue, which would be roughly 3%. And then we got $17 million in reductions, or 6%, of the police from the Portland Police Bureau. It should be fine. It'll be okay. It'll be good. No, Portland cannot afford to have a $17 million reduction in the police bureau. I don't care. It's more optics than anything else. Police department, no. Fire department, no. These are first responders. When your house is on fire, you want the fire department to come. Stat. You cut from funding the criminal illegals, right? Cut from funding the homeless industrial complex. How much are you funding the homeless industrial complex in Portland? 150 million? Couple $100 million? Take a 50 million whack out of that bad boy, right? I don't even know how much Portland, but I mean, if you add everything together, it's got to be into the hundreds of millions. Budget proposes removing one fire engine from operations. Okay, that's not good. It also recommends cutting 2 administrative positions. Okay. Wilson boasted his budget does not remove any police officers or investigators and keeps all fire stations open across the city. Yeah, they might be open, but you don't have any fire trucks with the dudes to run them and dudettes to run them. So what's the point? You know what I mean? Oh, yeah, they're open. They can't get to you. They're 4 fires deep and, funding cuts, budget cuts. Got to cut from something else, but you won't. This is Portland. This is what we're doing. Cuts of this magnitude will have real and substantial impacts on our personnel, operations, and ability to deliver services at current levels. We heard Bob Day make that quote, right? Yes. Chief Day does get that, right? Doesn't understand some of the other stuff, or he's basically told, hey, back down on the criminals because it's Portland and that's what we're doing. You know what I mean? Just some really wonky stuff, including defund the police. Portland City Council has until June to tweak or change Wilson's recommended budget. 2 councilors told KATU on Monday that they approve of his proposals. Got to cut somewhere. Where are you going to cut? Oh, we're just going to make a little snippy snip here, a little snippy snip there. Hey, if you weren't spending money on just ridiculous nonsense, you'd have plenty of money. You'd have plenty of money. You look through Portland's budget, you're like, oh my, what is that? Some of the stuff, you don't even know what it is. It's just a bunch of gibberish, right? It's a bunch of gibberish because it's these pet projects that you're like, how about harm reduction? How about housing first? How about the entire homeless industrial, complex? How about all of that, which has clearly wildly failed in Portland, Oregon. I mean, just go down there. Just go down there and take a look. I mean, video after video after video hits the internet. I mean, it's a worldwide known deal that Portland, Oregon has some of the most grotesque examples of homelessness. I mean, people on the streets just doing crazy stuff, crazy stories, time and time again. So Portland understands what happens when you let absolute criminal activity go because they're living it. You're living it. I mean, it's sheer insanity, but it's Portland and this is what they're doing. So, hey, why the heck not? Let's just snippy snip. What'd we say? How many? 15 million, 18 million? Does it even matter? Who knows? 17 million in reductions from the police bureau. Now you need to add 17 million there, and you need to give the fire department another 20 million because who wants their house to burn? You know what I mean? Just load those two up with dollars because you really, really, really need them. When you need them, you need them. And you don't want to have this, I can't get to you. As it is, cities like Portland, cities like Seattle, that did defund their police have never recovered. And it's because on top of, cutting the budget, there is this idea that police are bad, that first responders are bad. How you can ever say a fireman, he's going into a burning building. Oh, that's terrible. That's awful. Burn, baby, burn, right? You know what I mean? Just what are we even doing there? Police. People want to vilify the police. And after fentanyl, Floyd died of a fentanyl overdose, and they blamed it on Derek Chauvin. People don't want to be a cop. They don't want to be a cop because they associate it with all the riots. And then you don't have enough police. Seattle doesn't have enough police. Portland doesn't have a police. Now you don't have enough funding. And this is going to happen all over the country. So wherever you've got these big budget deficits, they're all the big cities because they took a lot of money and they did some unbridled spending during the pandemic years. Now they've kept all those programs, so they're on this level of spending that is no longer viable moving forward. So you got to cut. You got to make some cuts. And these cities are the least able to accommodate a budget cut like that for public services. You don't want that. And even people in Portland, I think, aren't stupid enough to think that this is a great idea. So what'll happen? I bet you these numbers get cut down. I bet you they cut 8 million from the police department, 3 million from the fire and rescue. All right. Still not good, but not as big as the heavy hits that they've got here. And how are they going to make it up? Yeah, just the way they make up everything. Just, we're going to do a little cut from here. And, we've decided that, the surgeries for the trans individuals within our prison system, where we're going to cut that. You're like, what? You're doing what? Didn't even know about that. Oh, just some insanity, some sheer insanity. But because it's Portland, keep it weird, Portland. You're going to have some budget cuts to stuff that you're like, okay, all right, whatever. And you're going to have some cuts to first responders. Not good. Not good. But neither is $170 million budget deficit either. That is avoidable because you're spending so much money on ridiculous crap you don't need to. That's why I'm moving to Oklahoma. They don't do that there, right? They're like, hey, how much money do we have coming in? That's about what we can spend. It's called a budget, not, hey, we got to backfill this with cuts because we have to spend XYZ billions of dollars on just nonsensical crap. That's what Portland does. That's what Seattle does. That's what LA does. All the big blue liberal cities. It's tax and spend, tax and spend. Greatest concept ever. Right behind defund the police. This will be an interesting one to follow. How much will get whacked? It won't be that much from police. It won't be that much from fire. Guaranteed. Mark my words. Famous last words, right? So you're going to want to make sure that you're subscribed, hit that notification bell, and I'll give you updates as Portland turns. Thanks so much for joining. Talk soon. Bye for now.